thanks for joining us. I'm Vladimir Duthier. The criminal investigation into Freddie Gray's death is now in the hands of prosecutors. His death in police custody due to an unexplained spinal injury has sparked days of unrest. Today, Baltimore police announced they've completed a preliminary investigation a day earlier than promised.
The task force heeded my call, and we have exhausted every lead at this point in time. But this does not mean that the investigation is over. Let me repeat, this does not mean that the investigation is over. If new evidence is found, we will follow it. If new direction is given by the state's attorney, we will obey it, and we will follow through with the investigation. We will also further investigate at the request of the state attorney to bring forth any other witnesses that we find. I understand the frustration. I understand the sense of urgency, and so has the organization, and that is why we have finished it a day ahead of time, meeting and foregoing my conclusions already. I also know that getting to the right answer is more important than the speed. Making sure that we look and overturn every rock is more important than just coming forth and giving a document. I know that the state's attorney is committed to seeing justice, and from this point on, we will take all our directions from the state attorney because it is now their case.
Well, we also learned today of a previously unknown stop by the police van that was transporting Gray. Police haven't said, though, whether anything happened during that stop or why it was made. They say at the first stop, Gray was put in leg cuffs because he had become irate. And at some point, Gray suffered a serious spinal injury and died a week later. For more on all this, we go to our CBS News legal analyst, Rikki Klieman, to ask some questions here. Rikki, the first question, well, first of all, thank you for being here.
I'm always happy to be with you.
Let me ask you, what's ahead for Marilyn Mosby? She's the state attorney that is prosecuting this case.
The state attorney needs to take the police investigation or whatever they are going to provide to her, but the state attorney doesn't simply stop there. The state attorney needs to do their investigation. Eventually, this would go to a grand jury where we would look at objective evidence, we being, not that we're in there, not that it's public, but that the process would have people testify before a grand jury before there were any indictments in this case. An indictment is different than simply a charge.
Why do you think, and do you think there's any significance into handing over the investigation to the state's attorney a day early, basically?
Well, I think that probably Tony Batts, as the chief of police, feels that it makes him look better, that they've been so prompt, that they have come to a conclusion very, very quickly. And that's because there has been so much criticism of what has happened with the police in Baltimore so far. Speed is not the answer. The answer in this case is a thorough investigation. And as we always know, the first story is never the last story, which is why grand juries take a lot of time, and there are lots of witnesses to testify. You also have competing interests here. We don't know what happened inside that van, and you are going to have some police officers who hypothetically will hire attorneys and go to be able to try to testify for the prosecution. Other police officers who will not say anything. This is not a fast process. I know that people would like it to be fast, but justice has to move at the correct speed, not at the quickest speed.
So it's not a question of lack of transparency or accountability, which I think from the reporting that's been done on the ground is what civilians are saying. They're saying the reason it's taking so long is because, the police are trying to cover things up. And that, you think the fact that they are taking this amount of time is, in fact, showing accountability?
Well, I think it shows accountability. It may not show transparency, so I understand the distinction. The police are in a situation where if they go too fast, they're criticized, and if they go too slowly, they are criticized. It doesn't mean that there's a cover-up. Now, at the same time, it is an odd factor that we learn from the Washington Post. That's the newspaper that broke the story that said that there may have been a situation that was untold before. So when you have a situation like that, one of the things that police officers and police chiefs take courses, and in these courses they learn about how to deal with the media in the same way that when I was a criminal defense lawyer or a prosecutor, I taught advocates how to deal with the media. Anything that becomes exculpatory, that is, toward these police officers, the police would actually be far better off if they got those stories out front. The longer things are not transparent, the worse it always is for both sides.
So let me play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, Rikki, because you pointed out, and our audience knows that you were a former criminal defense attorney. If you are defending me and it comes out through a leaked report like it did in the Washington Post that somebody believes that Freddie Gray tried to injure himself whilst in the back of that police van, but he didn't see anything, he just heard banging. Isn't it easy for you to poke holes through that and say, well, you didn't see anything, and banging could be him trying to tell the drivers that he's injured. Banging could be him getting slammed across the side of the, because he's incapacitated against the side of the wall of the van, right? Isn't it easy for you?
Absolutely correct. One of the things that I've often told lawyers is there are certain facts that are beyond change. There is nothing you can do with this fact, being a prosecutor or a defense lawyer, to change the fact. However, many more facts are facts that can be interpreted in a variety of ways. If you look at the whole issue of somebody thought they heard somebody who's heard something else, you're already at double hearsay, which is why it's not admissible in court if you learn something from someone else and you're not a witness, because it has no reliability. What we need to know is who really heard something, what did they hear, and then ultimately, does it mean that he was injured by himself in the van? Hardly likely.
Right.
Does it mean that certain people went after him in the van? More likely. But nonetheless, at the time, you've got these police officers. One of them, at some point in time, is likely to look for a way out, and the way out is to inform on other officers.
Rikki Klieman, CBS News legal analyst. Thank you so much. Great discussion.